afternoon, everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome to Stock Market Today. Alyssa Corman, Justin Nielsen here with a breakdown of the action in today's session. We're going to go over the damage suffered in the major indexes today, but Justin, there were a couple of bright spots under the surface.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at Cloudflare, which we did put on Swing Trader, also AutoNation, which was our stock of the day, and PayPal, also showing a reversal today. So we've got some strength to look at, and hey, we'll also take a look at the indexes because there was a lot to look at there.
Yeah, some interesting reversals there. So we'll get to a couple of those. But first, here's a look at the NASDAQ, which closed down 1.1% for the day. The S&P 500 and Russell 2000 each down 1.6%. The Dow, the hardest hit, down 2.1% for the day. So the NASDAQ more red here today, Justin, and now gapping down below the 21-day.
Yeah, so I mean, this is one of those things where your wind is at your back more when you're above the 21-day moving average line. So this does kind of put us in a little bit more of a defensive posture. A lot of the leading groups, think oil. I mean, if you just take a look at XOP, this is what a lot of the oil, U.S. explorers and producers look like. They've gotten decimated over the last week. So a lot of these were crossing their 10-week moving average lines last week, and so that's a big sell signal for us on a lot of these. So with that, kind of backdrop, you should have already been getting defensive based on the action in a lot of leading stocks last week. So the benefit is if you are getting a little bit lighter during the strength, because we were talking about how things were looking a little extended. We got that July 8th drop, and that just was one day, and we immediately reversed and back to new highs. So we were, again, this was our fear that we were quickly going to get extended again. So if you can lighten up a little bit into that strength, then when the pullback happens, you don't get hit as hard. And if there are opportunities for reversals, you can go into those a little bit more. Now, you mentioned the NASDAQ, but the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average, both of those were down even more. So I'm showing it looks like the S&P 500 closed down 1.6%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed down 2.1%. So both of these hit a lot harder as financials and the oils and a lot of the industrial stocks were getting hit harder. And so again, now you've got the Dow Jones Industrial back below its 50-day moving average line. And this was the one that looked like it was holding up fairly well. It was right at new highs, just last week. So, these are warning signs that you don't want to ignore. But at the same time, look, there's been this buy the dip mentality, and we saw that in a lot of stocks today that we're going to cover, but you have to kind of do a little balancing here.
Right. And if you're making new buys, know that there is a little bit of added risk here with the market under pressure like it is.
Right.
But Cloudflare, ticker NET, an upside reversal at the 21-day line, closing up 2.8%. We still have a couple weeks before earnings, Justin, and this is one of those enterprise software stocks that just had a really nice run in May and June, and this pullback to the 21-day was very orderly. So an upside reversal like this is what you want to see.
Yeah, so we did put this on Swing Trader, and I'll just go through a few of the things that I liked. First of all, the fact that it got that support at the 21-day moving average line, got right back above it. Look at this. This is what we call an outside day. So the day actually engulfed both the prior 2 days. So that's usually showing some directionality, and you look at where it closes. In this case, the fact that it closed near its highs, that's a positive sign. And where I put the stop for Swing Trader was at last Friday's low, because again, if it goes back underneath that, it's going to look funny. It's going to look like it might need more time. And so what you can do in this case is your risk is very low. If you have the stop there, you're going to know fairly quickly if this isn't working. And so by risking just a little bit, you're you're able to kind of participate in case this reversal does follow through. Now, you mentioned earnings are coming up, and so that is something you have to be aware of. For a swing trade, we'll probably be out of this. Well, we'll definitely be out of this before that comes around. And so this is something that we're just looking to see if we can get a little bit of a pop. We were light already, and so we had a very light exposure going into today. So we were actually positive for the day, which, hey, that means that we're gaining ground on the S&P 500. And the other thing too here is you mentioned that the orderly pullback. Look at how there was just been no volume here with this pullback. And so even though the volume was low today, roughly 26% below average, it was right up there in the most recent volume. So I think a lot going here for Cloudflare. And software, the computer software enterprise group just seemed like it had a lot of stocks that had a very similar look. And I'm just going to end with the relative strength line. That relative strength rating at 95, relative strength line, you could see that getting to new high ground very easily if this gets if the price gets to new highs, and that's a huge positive right there.
Yes, it is. And PayPal, PYPL, also reversing higher today after coming down to its 21-day line, closed slightly positive for the day. But this is another stock that really flexed its leadership muscles again in May and June, and pull back here more or less also in lighter than average volume. So with a stock like PayPal, reversals at the 21-day line don't happen very often as the stock is making a significant advance.
Right. And a lot of times we're talking about when we're looking at adding to a position or even initiating in some cases, we're talking usually about those stocks that get down to their 50-day moving average line. So the fact that these are stocks that when a lot of the stocks out there are crossing below their 10-week moving average line, their 50-day moving average lines, the fact that these stocks are only coming down to their 21-day moving average line, again, is one of those relative strength elements. Now, this was trading negative for most of the day, but it still qualified as a reversal because you look at how it was, it had come off the bottom so much. And even though it wasn't an outside day like we saw with net, the fact that it was maintaining itself at the highs of the day, and again, it just got to positive at the end of the day. That's got a pretty good look to it. And here again, the relative strength line, if you look at that versus February, it's still well below that level, but it's definitely looking like it can get there in recent new high territory from just the last few weeks. So again, it's you have to be aware of these reversals as they happen. I think this is one that you can absolutely put on your radar. And look, there was a breakout here that kind of looked like it was failing, but this didn't hit the 7% or 8% rule. So you've got a possibility where this just retakes that breakout and could be still playable here.
Okay, and AutoNation saw a nice move on the heels of its quarterly earnings report today, up 3.6%. Some very strong volume behind today's gains as well. Another quarter of accelerating growth on both the top and bottom lines. Exceptionally strong bottom line growth, up 243% for the quarter, and sales up 54% from a 27% top line gain in the quarter before. So strong pricing power here for AutoNation amid the chip shortage.
Yeah, and look, these are not small numbers. I mean, when you're seeing triple-digit growth, like you just mentioned, that's something that you have to take notice of. And so, again, this was a blowout quarter for them. They've got a lot of things going for them. That pricing power, because hey, look, it's just not easy finding cars right now, and the used car market has skyrocketed because of that chip shortage that you mentioned. And look, it's not just the earnings. You've got some strong revenue growth that's accelerating here. So you went from negative to 4 to 27 to 54. So again, you look at the fundamental story behind this, and here you are with the market down, and this is bucking that trend because it's got that strong earnings. You could look at that 106.99 that pattern recognition is kind of putting as your line in the sand. Looks like it got above it just briefly a few days ago, and closed just below it today, but it's right there. And you saw that huge volume. This is something where institutions were obviously grabbing up shares of this as they were kind of looking at the valuation, how they had to reprice this based on this earnings report. And I could also see a 105.50, that line in the sand, add 10
Right.
cents to that, kind of an early entry there. So I think you had a couple options here. But
Hmm.
I think the big takeaway here is despite the fact that there was a lot of destruction out there, the market's looking, a little bit tougher. The uptrend under pressure, we did that last week to kind of say, hey, look, there's some warning signs out there. There's still some stocks that you want to keep on your radar, and potentially nibble a little bit just to see, because again, there's been this buy on the dip mentality, and if that continues, we could be getting back to new highs fairly quickly. We're just going to have to wait and see how
Hmm.
this little a corrective phase wouldn't be bad here. That wouldn't be bad. It would create a lot more setups, but the market doesn't always give us what we want. So we'll just have to wait and see what it does.
Right. Well, we'll have to see what tomorrow brings, Justin. Thanks so much for that. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, investors.com/IBD Live. Check it out. We'll see you there. Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll be back tomorrow.